Today, I want to talk about...
Hot takes about the trans community?
That's right, Mia, we are talking about the hottest takes ever. Thank you so much for Mia for allowing me to take a few of her clips and talk about them in my video. Go watch her full video, preferably before you watch mine. Pause it right now. Stop. Go watch the video. Come back. Then we continue. It's probably going to be one of the longer videos I'm going to make, because we're going to talk about some of her points, some of my points, and some of your points. Exactly. Okay.
You don't have to have dysphoria to be trans.
Exactly. So you don't need to have dysphoria to be trans. Why is that? Because one, the definition of dysphoria, of gender dysphoria, can be very hard. Like when I realized, my God, I'm trans, I rather be, or rather I am a woman, right? I was like, do I have dysphoria? And I think it takes like a lot of self-reflection. There's a lot of procedures and a lot of like self-discovery, you know? It takes a while. For me, it only starts to happen like very late, right? In my life and into my transition itself. Like, I will look back to moments in my life and be like, yep, that was dysphoria. That was dysphoria. That was dysphoria. The fail we've heard about this thing, that's dysphoria. And one, yes, you don't need to have dysphoria to be trans. But also, many people do not even realize that they do have dysphoria or how strong the dysphoria actually is, right? So, my God, don't like gatekeep random things, and we're gonna get to that later.
I hate passing culture.
So let's talk about passing for a little bit, right? Passing is weird in multiple ways. One, if you ask someone if you're passing, doesn't matter if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you ask someone if you're passed as that type of person, you are literally asking if you fit the traditional, probably conservative stereotypes of what that gender looks like, okay? So for a woman, it would be very feminine, very petite, right? Very pink. For a man, it would be like very powerful, very muscular, and very emotionless. Something like that. I don't know, okay? So I get why people ask if they pass, right? Because let's be honest, and this is true, I know this myself. If you pass to other people, right, you will have an easier time living your life, being out in public. It's sad, but it's a sad truth that we kind of have to accept. But like being so, what's the word, possessive, vehement, that you like need to pass 24/7 or you can't like leave the house, chill. Listen, all these things that you hear from especially like the US, right, where cis people, cis women have been like kicked out of bathrooms because they, quote unquote, don't pass enough as a woman. They are not feminine enough. Should show you that passing is not the be all and end all, and not the BA and B, and I don't know, I was making a alphabet joke there. Anyway, it doesn't matter, okay? It's stupid. It's the whole thing, just as Mia said, is stupid, right? Because if there are cis people that do not pass as their gender, they are born as and identify as, and they have no problems with their gender, and they do not pass 100% of the time 24/7. Why should it bother you if sometimes maybe in the eyes of other people you don't pass? Listen, relax, okay? Cut yourself some slack. At this point I have to say, Mia, could you please send the people a message? Please and thank you.
Please like and subscribe to Shyaren. She has got me locked in her basement, saving me transmeds.
Meds? Like the things on the ground where you put your shoes on before you go into the house? Or like transmids when you play mid lane in like League of Legends, but you're go do the transgression of playing like AP Shaco? Wait, I play AP Shaco. What? Am I a transmid now? Wait.
No, Shy, jeez. It's transmed, not transmid or transmat. We're not filming a game theory video here, okay? You got this.
Oh, you mean transmed? Actually, I've never heard of this term before. Let Mia explain what that means.
Transmed is short for transmedical, which is someone who believes that you have to have gender dysphoria or some kind of medical basis to be trans. This is what most trans healthcare is built on, and why it sucks so much.
Hi, hello, editing Shy here. So I just realized that after this last point, I never really came back to give my opinion. And obviously, I don't agree with transmeds either, right? This is only something I literally learned from Mia's video myself that even exists, that there are people who feel that way. And of course, I know that in like most countries, basically trans self-care is very gatekept. For example, in Germany, you need like a letter from a psychiatrist or like a therapist, right? That literally gives you a diagnosis of being trans. And then you can go to one of the 3 types of doctors who deals with hormones and stuff and start your HRT potentially there. And even then, that person can also be like, yeah, this is not good enough, right? So it's very gatekept in that kind of way. So it's kind of crazy to me that there are trans people themselves who are like that and behave like that. And you know, I think it's very weird. It's like almost going to the point where this is extreme. And if you are trans med and feel attacked, I'm sorry, but this is my opinion and deal with it. It's hot takes after all. If that is your opinion and you feel like that, that almost goes to the same way as those like conservative people who go like, oh my god, they're transing all the kids, they're doing gender reassignment in the school. Do I sound like Trump? No, right? I don't know. There's that one TikToker who does like insane Trump impressions. I can't. Anyway, if you say you need to have like criteria 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, you're at the same time saying that some people decide, realize, learn that they are trans too fast and they are not valid and they are not allowed to do anything about it. They're not allowed to transition either socially or medically without like having all of these criteria. And that's kind of stupid, don't you think?
Instead of complaining about your voice, start voice training.
Okay, then let's talk about voice training. Voice training is like one of those things that takes time, and you have to realize it takes time. And after you have realized it takes time, you have to know that the best day to start voice training was yesterday, but the second best day is today. Guess what? It's just like with all things. It's just like with working out, with changing your life, with transitioning in general, right? With taking HRT. The voice training is a longer process, right? Some people find it easier, some find it harder. And before you ask, sadly, I myself do not have any voice training tips. I made a video about this before, where basically I was born with like without any hormones in my freaking body, so I never went through the typical male puberty, so my voice never broke. So I am in the lucky position where I didn't really have to voice train, but I still learned and tried to speak like differently. Like if you go back and watch some of the first videos I did, you can see that I 100% spoke like different there than I do here now, right? But I never did like the traditional quote-unquote voice training that many like trans people, especially trans women, do, right? And I do want to at this point send you over to either Yuko EX, she has some voice training videos, or Fairy Princess Lucy, she also has some voice training videos, and you can check there, okay? And I'm probably gonna make a video about all kinds of voice training resources at some point, because I myself sadly cannot give you any tips, but I can make a list of people who can give you tips. Isn't that amazing? Start voice training now!
Trans-masc lesbians and he/him lesbians are valid.
Labels. Oh my god, labels. Let's talk about labels. What are labels? Why we use labels? How you can use labels? How you shouldn't use labels? And let's do it with how Mia described here that he/him lesbians are valid. Now, I think this is one of those things that many people either don't understand, don't want to understand, and even people in the queer community, even people in the trans community are like, that seems bullshit, that seems weird, what is that? But for a full explanation, you can go to Mia's video. I'm not gonna repeat that, right? But just as like a short reminder of the points she made and my opinion, labels exist for yourself, okay? Labels exist for yourself. And in a perfect world, only you yourself should put labels on you, right? You can put as many labels as you want or as little labels as you want. What the important thing is that other people cannot label you. Other people cannot put labels on you, and they cannot describe what those labels mean, right? So if I would put labels onto myself, right, they would be kind of like keywords. Like, listen, I work in a library and I work in an archive in my life before, right? So if you have like a video and you archive the video, for the next people to find it, you would put like little tags on the video, right? You would put like, it had ducks, it had a woman, it had a family, it was sunset in Germany, in that city, etc. That kind of thing in year 1975, okay? Listen, so many people recorded videos of ducks back in the day when cameras got first invented. It's insane how many like duck videos we had in the archive. You cannot believe it. This is a topic for a different day, right? Or for the modern audience out there, imagine how like a YouTube video has tags, right? They're not as relevant as back in the day anymore. But like I have tags on my videos, right? I have the tag Shyaren if you want to find me. I have the tags transgender, all these kind of things, right? But what would be labels I would put personally on myself? Probably German. That's a descriptor. Okay, I'm German. I have no problem calling myself that, right? I'm trans. I'm a woman. I'm a trans woman. Those are 3 different labels, by the way, right? Then we have like Gremlin, Jesus Christ, Gremlin, yeah! Content creator, VTuber, those are all labels, okay? And I personally, there's like the big ones that people are like, oh my god, that's so scary! It's labels about your sexuality. And I personally would probably use the bisexual label. I thought for a while I was pan, but I came to the realization, probably not. I just like everyone. But okay, so I would put bi on myself. Sadly, most of the time by myself as well. But hey, we don't talk about that kind of thing here, okay? Anyway, that is my opinion about labels, right? Labels are something you use on yourself. And if the most comfortable type of labeling for yourself, right, where you feel that you are yourself, is he, him, lesbian, right? That's valid, okay? That is 100% valid. Also, pronouns are different from your sexuality. Sexuality is not the same as your pronouns. Next point.
Is queer people who hate on other people because their identities.
Queerphobia in the queer community, and we have a similar comment from the community later on as well. Seems kind of wild, right? But you have to remember that, oh my god, I think a train just like stopped right outside my door. What the hell was that noise? Anyway, I'm keeping it in. Queerphobia exists, right? Just as like transphobia, gay phobia, Jesus Christ, homophobia, all these things exist. Yes, also in the LGBTQI+ community, in the queer community. Because why? Because we're humans, okay? You literally can be, and I always love to use this example, you literally can be an immigrant to a town, to a city, to a place, to a country, and hate on other immigrants and be racist in that kind of way. Right? We are literally seeing this sadly in Germany at the moment, where like back in the day, in like the 1970s, 1980s, Germany like invited a lot of people from other countries, a lot of like Polish people as well. That's where my family, for example, came from, right? And they started to work here. Many of them stayed here, decided to live here. And some of those people now are like, I mean, yes, we're not born Germans either, but like these new people, they are worse. We don't like them, right? So in that kind of sense, where basically one minority can hate another minority, that happens sadly everywhere. And yeah, it's sad. It sucks, because I feel like if you are part of a minority, you should very much understand how hard that can be, what challenges that can bring with you, right? And you shouldn't like hate against other things. What the hell? What the hell? Okay, what the hell? Then I want to talk about internalized transphobia, or rather, guess what?
Check out friend of the show, Shyren's channel. She made a beautiful video on this.
Did you see that? Did you see that plug from here? Yes, I talked about internalized transphobia already, and the video was very popular. But in case you haven't seen it, you're new to the channel, or maybe something like that, maybe go and watch that, because that is one of my hot things where I say internalized transphobia is hurting other people in your community as well. And it's probably a good idea to start working on it. Now, this is a part of the video where I asked you a few days ago on the community post what your hottest takes about the trans community are. And first off, I do want to talk about the fact that many people, more than I expected, said that their hottest takes is basically that there's like too much infighting, too much gatekeeping in the trans community, or like the queer community in general. And yes, does it exist? 100%. Does it exist for so many comments to be there and so many people to think it exists? No. I'm pretty sure this is one of those like problems, those symptoms that happens in online spaces, right? Maybe you had a bad experience with like a Discord server. Maybe you had a bad experience with a subreddit. Maybe for some reason you're still on Twitter. Don't. Maybe for some reason you had like a discussion with someone online that happened. I think in real life, in reality, in the real world where you can walk with your own two legs or whatever the hell, right? Whatever the hell, we don't all walk on two legs, by the way, and that's fine as well. In the real world, that doesn't happen that much, okay? I think that's an overblown problem that people see online and think that exists in like real life as well. And you go, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Does it happen? To some extent. Does it happen in this kind of extent? No. Okay, let's get into the comments. Corporate pride is base, actually. At best, it means that there's a supportive person in power. At worst, we are so powerful that we feel the need to do it. So let's talk about it, right? Because, hey, when you watch this video, it's June 1st. It's Pride Month. Happy Pride Month, by the way. And corporate pride. There are like multiple ways you can see it, right? Yes, it has to do with money for some, probably maybe even the majority of companies. There are some companies, for example, Ben & Jerry's, they are one of the good ones, right? They would probably do it even if it costs them money. And you can see that, okay? They go against like all these kinds of stupid policies. Like recently, even one of the co-founders of Ben & Jerry's got like thrown out of one of like the courtrooms in the USA because he was speaking up, right? That happens, right? And I'm also sure it happens that some companies are like, yeah, we only have like Pride stuff because we want to sell you stuff. And if we don't have Pride stuff, you don't buy our stuff. So we do. We are very prideful that you buy from us. So you can do like good Pride and you can do bad Pride. Bad Pride, for example, would be a current year Target still stocking like Pride products even after they completely killed their DEI programs. Yeah, that's weird. That's weird, okay? Is that weird? That's very weird. Like, and I'm so happy to hear that like people don't shop there anymore, that their stock tanked and stuff like that. Listen, the stories I heard about Target are wild. And as like a European who's never been to a Target in my life and probably will never be to a Target in my life, I'm just happy, probably, that we don't have this chain here. But yeah, corporate pride can be good, it can be bad. Worst case scenario, yes, they earn some money for us. But the good scenarios, the best kind of scenarios is, yes, it's representation. Listen, I bought a Nivea. Is that how you pronounce it? Nivea? The freaking cream, the hand cream, right? I bought one of those, like, last year. And it had a little rainbow flag on it. It was the same price as the normal product. I was like, I can either take the normal package, or I can take this little Pride package. It looks cute. It looks, I like it. Okay, I'll give it to me. Give it. Also, shout out to Converse, the shoe brand. They had like Pride shoes, and I'm still wearing them to this day. They're very comfy. I like them. And you can also go to the website and like customize your little shoes. And I'm pretty sure they have like presets for all kinds of like Pride flags as well, which is very based. Okay, so here's the point I was talking about earlier as well. Queerphobia within the queer community isn't discussed enough. The fact that there are gay and lesbian people who are transphobic is insane, and the idea that monogamous queer people could be polyphobic is also just insane, if not even a bit more so. Then, of course, is the always under-talked biphobia as well. Listen, this is what I talked about earlier, and I'm gonna try to make this point not as big again, right? But basically, just because you're queer, you're gay, you're bi, you're lesbian, you're trans, does not make you a good person, okay? Just because you're lean one way or the other way politically does not make you a good person, right? It is in our human being, in our human soul, in our human DNA to not be perfect. You can be the perfect human being 90% of the time, but you probably still have some bad traits. And yes, there are queer people who have those bad traits, and those bad traits happen to be queerphobic against other queer people. It happens, we have to accept it, but I don't think, as I said before, that it happens in such a massive degree, in such a massive freaking degree, that it is like under discussed, which is also why I don't really understand the point, the first sentence, right? It isn't discussed enough. I think people know it exists. I think most people also know that it basically, in this majority, only exists online. And even then, it's almost like hard to find. Like I'm not living in spaces online or in real life where I see this happen. I literally don't. So I would be very like what's the word? Curious. Like, right? If you experience a lot of queerphobia in the queer community, I would be curious that you tell me where this happens, okay? And Twitter is not a reply. Twitter is not an answer. If your answer to that question is Twitter, you lost already, okay? Get off Twitter, okay? Get off Elon Musk's playground. We don't want to be there. Use Blue Sky. It's way cooler anyway. Yeah. And to add to that, we have another point here. Here's my hot take. Every queer person on the queer planet needs to delete Twitter and how much social media they consume. Yes. And especially the second sentence here, you'd be amazed how much drama simply disappears by not just noticing and or caring about Twitter drama. And I do want to talk about this point, but in clearly two kinds of different, how do you say it, categories. Category number one is, let's say you're like me, okay? You're like a content creator. I still have a Twitter. I don't use it, but I am there just in case people need to contact me, and I check it like every few days if I have like a DM. I don't really scroll there, don't really post there. I post on Blue Sky. Follow on Blue Sky, by the way. Follow on Blue Sky. I post silly little things there. But like, if you're just like a general person, you probably shouldn't be on Twitter anymore, right? That's one. Secondly, I think we have to differentiate between like a news site and social media. I know this post didn't even talk about news site, right? But I think it's very important, especially if you're part of the queer community, especially if you're part of the trans community right now, to keep updated, right? What is happening to your rights? What is happening right now? Is there something you can do to try to keep up? Like, I don't live in the USA, but I'm still noticing and reading most of the things that happen there, and I know how bad it is currently, right? Because I am on like multiple subreddits with a majority based in like the USA and countries where it is happening, just because I need to know what is happening there, because I talk about it. And sadly, as sad as this sounds, many of the things that start like in America slowly over time go to the rest of the world as well. Let's just hope it's not the case in this case, but it does tend to happen, right? So I like to keep myself informed. But if you are a person that is like especially vulnerable to that kind of anxiety, right? To those kinds of like news, cut them out of your life, okay? You do not need to stay connected 24/7. You do not need to be on Twitter. You do not need to interact with those things. You do not need to see whatever the fuck J.K. Rowling posted 2 minutes ago. That's not part of your life right now. Go out there, kiss a butterfly on its cheek and say, "Butterfly, I love you so much right now. Thank you for being a beautiful being and having transitioned from a freaky worm to like a beautiful butterfly that flies around." I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't even like butterflies, okay? But anyway, you get my point, okay? Get off social media if you need that for your mental health care. Hot take, it's perfectly okay to have anxiety of passing, and it's perfectly valid to want to pass as well. Whenever you pass or not does not make you any more or less trans, right? You do not need to pass to be trans. You don't even need to want to pass to be trans, right? You don't even need to care about passing to be trans. It is also valid if you want to, right? We talked about this earlier in the video as well, where Mia was talking about this, right? And Mia, I don't have a clip of this in this video, but like at the end of Mia's video, she was basically talking about being honest with people asking if they pass, where you shouldn't like too sugarcoat it. Of course, don't be like Gigamean, right? But if a person 100% does not pass, it can actually be more damaging to lie to them and be like, "Yeah, you're such a beautiful girl, whatever," right? And you pass 100%, because then if they go out in public and their like preconceived notion of what they thought would happen does not happen, that's hurtful, okay? So there was a thing my mother once told me, and this thing I have never forgotten in my life. And she was critiquing me about something. I think it was a choice about wanting to be a kindergarten teacher, right? And she said something mean. I don't even remember what it was, but she said something mean to me, and I was like, why would you say that? That's not very supportive. And she was like, if I, as your mother, if I, as your family member, cannot tell you the truth, nobody else can, and nobody else will. Sometimes people need to hear the truth. They're asking if they pass or not. They're not asking for affirmations. Be honest with them. Tell them, maybe work on X, Y, and Z. Maybe try to do this thing if your goal is passing. But again, you don't need to pass. On to our next point about older queer people. This person says queer groups often stop existing, being inclusive after a certain age, usually the cutoff somewhere between 27 and 30. Oh no, I'm like 32, am I cut off? Then that several IRL digital spaces no longer want you. I think actually, and this is my personal take, it might be the opposite, right? Where ignoring the fact that there are people who start their transition later in life, like I myself only started at like 31, right? People that started 40, 50, 60, etc., all the way to age, right? But if there are people who started a transition, let's say in their 20s, and they are like 45 now, right? That means that they have been on their journey for like 25 years already. And as someone who has been on this, right, who has been quote unquote queer, trans, bi, whatever, right, for 25 years, known that, lived that, you do not have the same problems and the same needs as someone who literally just found out that about themselves, or literally just came out. And I think that is why like multiple communities exist, right? Like one community for everyone, one community for like younger people who just found out, the early transitioners, for example, and one for like people that have lived that for a long time. Because it's just the truth that a person who has been transitioned, who has transitioned, or, you know, for 30 years does not face the same problems, needs, wants as someone who is like 3 weeks into HRT. And sure, there are communities where these people come together, and that's beautiful because like these older people can help the younger people out, and that's amazing. But you also have to understand that if you're like a person who has been living as a woman, right, for 30 years already, going into like a subreddit where there's only like new transitioning people, if you want to call them that, right? And you read their like worries all the time, you read like their internalized transphobia things, you have already dealt with that, right? You have already processed all of that. And I think it can be very hard for those like older people to want to like relive that again, because there's no need for them to do that, right? They've already worked through that. So I think it's actually the other way around than this comment says, and I think that's okay as well, right? Yes, of course, we should not leave anybody out of the community because like any factors, if it's age, gender, sexuality, whatever, right? But I think multiple communities do exist. Yeah. Mildly spicy take. Labels aren't as important as how you actually feel. It's not about what specific thing you identify as, it's about what you feel like doing with yourself. The label is just something to help others get a general idea of that, and that just reflects what I was talking about earlier as well, where you are the only one who can put a label on you, right? Only you put a label on you, nobody else does, and the label is only as important as you make it, as you want it to be. If it's like very important to you that you are being called a lesbian, then that is fine. If you don't care about labels, that's fine as well. So even though we talked about this specific hot take already, I do wanna have this here at the end of the video because this actually was the most upvoted comment in the middle community post, right? My hot take is that people are too gatekeepy about what constitutes a proper LGBTQ plus person, or even just what is acceptable to refer to oneself as. Labels are created to fit people, but people aren't created to fit labels. And I think there's many important things here. One, I think the gatekeeping thing, we've talked about it in like multiple points. I think it only really exists online. It doesn't exist that much in real life, okay? I really think it doesn't. The most gatekeeping thing I think you can find in the queer community is actually the fact that like trans healthcare is very gatekept by like states and countries. And that's a bad thing, and I wish it wasn't as bad, right? But sadly, it still is nowadays. And then like a proper gay, a proper lesbian, a proper trans person. You can only be this one way. We all know that's not true. We all know there's not only one way to be a woman, or not only one way to be a man. There's not only one way to be non-binary, right? There's multiple ways, and infinite ways even, right? Because you are you and you are unique. And then the last point this person says is labels are created to fit people, but people aren't created to fit labels. 100%, and I reiterate now for the last time, only you choose your labels. Nobody else does, okay? Good. Okay, with that, I want to say thank you so much for watching this long video, going through through all of these points. A little bit of a different video. Usually I record videos in one go and I yap like all the time, but this time I actually did like tiny recordings every time to address like all of the points. And I hope you like the style as well, and I shall see you next time. Bye!